The simple greatest political innovation of the ancient Greeks was the establishment of the polis, or the city-state. The ancient Greeks shared a common language, culture, and religion. They considered anyone who did not speak Greek a barbarian. Although the Greek people had much in common, they were also very independent of each other. The geography of Greece, the mountains and the seas, separated communities from each other. Greeks took great pride in what city-state, also known as a polis, they belonged to. A city-state was an independently ruled city with its own laws, customs, money, and army. A Greek citizen's loyalty was directed to his city-state. These city-states often made alliances with other cities, forming into leagues, confederations, or federations while maintaining an independent identity. They became a feature of Greek civilization. When the rocky landscape around a city no longer supported the growing population, they sent people to start colonies in other areas along the Mediterranean Sea. The polis, or city-state, was the geographic and political center of Greek life. At first, each polis was made up of farming villages, fields, and orchards, grouped around a fortified hill called an acropolis. At the top of the acropolis stood the temple of the local god. At the foot was the agora. This was an open area used as a marketplace. As time passed, artisans, traders, and members of the upper class settled near the agora. By 700 BCE, the inner part of the polis had become a city. Together with the villages and the farmland around it, it formed a city-state. Each city-state had its own government and laws. The average city-state contained between 5,000 and 10,000 citizens. The overwhelming characteristic of the city-state was its small size. This allowed for a certain amount of experimentation in its political structure. Its small size allowed for democracy, since individual city-states were small enough that the free male citizens constituted a body small enough to make policy decisions relatively efficiently. Workers born outside Greece, as well as women, children, and slaves, were not citizens. Only citizens could vote, own property, hold public office, and speak for themselves in court. In return, they were expected to take part in government and to defend their polis in time of war or conflict. Politically, all the Greek city-states began as monarchies. In their earliest stages, they were ruled by a king. The Greeks soon tired of the kings, many of which were overthrown. The most common form of government in the Greek city-states then was oligarchy, or rule by a few. The oligarchs were almost always drawn from the noble classes, or from the wealthiest citizens of the city-state. The oligarchs often ruled absolutely. They had many of the powers granted to a king. However, many oligarchs ruled in conjunction with other political groups. The power of the oligarchy could be remarkably totalitarian, since many of the members of the oligarchy were drawn from the same class and had the same interests. Many of the early oligarchic governments and a few of the kings were overthrown by tyrants. The Greek tyrants were often swept into power by dissatisfaction or crisis. They were, more often than not, extremely popular leaders when they assumed the power. They often assumed absolute control in the name of reforming the government. They maintained power only by their hold on military force and were often feared. By the 6th century, tyranny and oligarchy were replaced by democracy. The Greek word means demos, means rule by the people. The Greek democracies were not representative governments. They were governments run by the free, male citizens of the city-state. Citizenship was based on descent. City-states demanded that its citizens be able to demonstrate descent from one parent who was a citizen. For Greek citizens in ancient times, civic and personal honor was one and the same. The polis gave them a sense of belonging. They put the good of the polis above everything else. Two of the greatest Greek city-states were Sparta and Athens. Sparta had the strongest army in Greece, while Athens had the strongest navy. However, each developed differently, with a different kind of government and a different way of life.